You're listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
Nailed it. So pee break is over. Turns out it's harder to pee in a dress than I thought it would be.
I still had to squat to pee, though. Sit down to pee, I guess.
This is part 2 of episode 300. We'll just go right back into the conversation about this.
Do you remember where we were?
Yeah, the social media account, the neurocompatible parent, or neuro.
I was totally ready to pop out. So.
Neurocompatible _parenting. But that whole idea about the brain not being fully developed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so... like, we're not going to catch you up on the other episode. So if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to the first part of episode 300, just go back and listen to the part of 300 rather than us trying to recap and catch up.
Wow.
What's up?
I just saw a post that was it's shitty. It's like the kind of the right. I don't even know if I'm not going to give them attention. It was just a very. I'm wondering. It's just oh my gosh. Okay, just on my words. I will focus on the social media, how it reflects back. Right.
Yeah.
I don't normally see things like this on my social media, but this conversation here, and it is tied around an attack on the LGBTQIA plus community, on gender fluid, it's just like literally and emphasizing the toxic traits of the masculine that we were speaking of. It was all in one post as we're sitting here, and it was somebody calling them out, but then it was also that same. So it was funny, the whole conversation that we've had on the first part, and I popped it up just so I could look at this account that you're referencing now, and I'd be able to engage, and that was the first thing, and it was just like, whoa, social media mirror, hello. Yeah,
we're getting a lot of that, a lot of toxic energy on our content.
Yeah, why?
Because we are showing up in the ways that we're showing up.
Yeah. I guess that's, I can see that aspect of it. I guess my confusion, we're getting away from your point. But my confusion with that is it's the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we're showing up. I don't understand how that's the mirror.
So my belief, and we talked about this on the mirroring media, social
Refresh
media.
Refresh my brain.
What we're seeing on social media, if we're triggered by it, and if it's upsetting us, and if it's frustrating, and if it's challenging, that is the shadow that needs to be worked on.
Okay.
So we have people commenting, like we posted a reel recently. I don't remember even the content of the reel or what was.
I do.
Do you?
I think it was about the Oscars. It was about Will Smith.
Oh, it was from that episode.
And you were talking about the trauma of it.
This one was even just about it was about the aspect of jokes, where it was like, we got to stop joking about stuff. The one with the guy that...
was there another? Was the one that I missed?
No, it was the one where it got really...
That's the one I thought I was...
Comments.
I thought I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh, let's not. I need to listen to it.
There we go. Turn the volume down.
I think, yeah, this is the one. So it's a post from episode 294 or 5, something like that, Oscar trauma. And the post is the reel is in regards to basically hiding behind humor, and how comics, and not even just comics are just an outward expression of how society does this, where we'll joke about things and we'll tease people, and then we'll make it their fault if they're offended, or I'm just joking, and all of this kind of, and you called it out. You're like, it's bullying. It's adults bullying is what it is. But now we are under, we're using that lens of it's really just kids, right? We're all just emotionally, mentally, these 9-year-olds still making fun of each other on the playground. And like, I'm going to read the guy's comment.
Are you?
Hell yeah.
All right, dude wanted attention, right?
Well, the whole thing, I don't like that either, where it's like, we'll block out the account of her referencing something. Why?
I had...
social media. So this guy...
Media. My problem was because I felt like he was being... It wasn't like I was trying to hide it. I was like, I feel like I didn't want him to have a platform to be hurtful to other people on our page.
So this directly goes to that concept of what's triggering you and what you're consuming and what you're looking at and what
Okay.
you're seeing, if it triggers you, that is the shadow to go towards.
Okay. So okay.
So this guy, Mayan_mountain, his comment on this reel was, LOL, what an absolute pansy. I guarantee that dude votes Democrat. Fucking weakling.
And
So-
then it just went where he started attacking people.
So obviously
in the
he's
comments
obviously
after
he's
that, too.
referring to me.
Yeah, he was referring to you.
I cannot wait to see if this guy finds any reels from this episode.
Yeah,
Right.
well, he's.
And this guy, he
Hey,
is.
I love you. I'm looking out for you right now.
I've got my.
You're good. Okay. I just saw
covered.
that and I'm like, you're not used to what happens.
No, I'm very
Okay,
conscious of.
okay.
So this guy makes crystal jewelry, stone jewelry. Considers himself a starseed. If you look at his account,
Yeah.
he's a philanthropist and entrepreneur. Appears to be very much in the space of helping people and
That's what it
providing
appears.
people
Yeah.
with all sorts of stuff. And I believe that he is doing
Yeah.
all of those things.
I think he is too.
And I simply think
However.
that what we represented for him, what I represented for him, perhaps, because he singled me out, right?
Yeah.
So he's triggered by this post,
Mm-hmm.
by this reel, and by me. I'm just the shadow for
There's
him,
the shadow.
right? And so him triggering you, and also me,
Yeah.
because hold on.
Okay.
When I saw his comment,
Mm-hmm.
my reaction is, okay, if you think I'm a pansy and a weakling, please come talk to me. I would happily meet you at the jiu-jitsu gym where we can definitely have a conversation on the mat,
That's first.
right? That's my first reaction. My first reaction is masculine. My first
Yeah.
reaction is, cool, you think I'm weak? Come hang out over here and I'll show you weak, right? Because I 100% guarantee that within the span of 90 seconds, he would be unconscious.
Right.
No matter what he did, no matter how hard he fought, no matter any of those things, within 90 seconds, he would be unconscious.
Okay.
And when he woke up, because I was taking care of him after putting him to sleep, I would say, hey, buddy, are you okay? Yeah, I just choked you so that you passed out. You're all right. And then if he wanted to fight some more, now we would be about 30 seconds before he was unconscious.
So what was
and then
your
I would wake
second
him up
thought?
again, right? And be like, yeah, that's the second
Okay.
time, bud. Do you want to have a conversation now? Are you okay? Oh, you still want to go some more? Okay.
Okay. So what was your second thought?
So that's the shadow.
Yeah. That's the shadow.
That's the shadow for
Yeah.
me, and how I have to recognize, and I have to move towards that, because that's not how I move through life, and that's not how I want to move through life.
I like that was how that was your first thought though.
Yeah.
It wasn't of this mother blubber and you were like wanting to call on. It wasn't like this outward. It was like, oh, you think so? Let's go. And it was still.
Well, it's a calm, assertive way of
It
saying,
is
you
so
want to
a calm
fucking
way of
fight,
saying-
motherfucker? Let's fucking fight.
I know, but I liked that it wasn't so like, rah.
Right? Jiu-jitsu teaches you that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, don't ever think that somebody is weak. Because there are plenty of people who do not look. I mean, there are people that are half my size and will choke me out in 15 seconds, no matter what I do.
Yeah.
And so that guy just needs to stop looking through the filter of what he's looking at. And bless his heart, he
Why does
doesn't
that
have
scare him so
he doesn't
much?
have the data yet to expand and look outside of that filter.
Yeah.
So everything he's doing, every way he's reacting, the ability to go on somebody else's social media and make a comment about something that's hurtful to that person is very much childlike, wounded, damaged, traumatized bully who is 7 years old on the playground picking on everybody.
I see that. And like my other, and maybe you can help work through that, is like I had that first initial reaction when I saw that comment. I was like, dude, like there's no need for that. It was that like, oh, that like, ew, it just felt bad.
It does feel bad.
But then when we had somebody else commented like on his post, on his comment,
Yeah.
and they called him out for something, this person was just, he was so horrible. Like his whole goal, it seemed, my perspective, was to get on and just start shit and just make people feel bad. And so you're like, whatever, like he was bringing that mirror, but I thought, at what point, Like, I don't want to hear the bully. I don't want to keep giving the bully the platform when he was just trying to hurt people.
So
whether
this
it was
goes
you, whether it
towards-
was the people. And then I was like, I don't want to, I understand it goes towards it, and I'm having a hard time seeing it. So I'm just like, I'm communicating my point.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know that when I can't see it is usually like whenever I'm like, okay, my brain just can't see it, then there's this moment, but I haven't hit that moment yet, because it felt very much like our responsibility. Like,
To protect
I wanted
other
to
people
protect
from him.
Exactly. Because we were the platform.
Right.
And I thought what he was saying completely unnecessary. I didn't see the harm in blocking him. Like, I wanted to, like, why? Like, if you want to go scream, throw your tantrum, fine. Doesn't mean I need to sit here and pay attention to you.
Right.
Doesn't mean that anybody else here needs to pay attention to you. You want to holler about how important you are and how good you are. Okay. Keep shouting all that so everybody sees. Do you feel important at all, or do you just need to make people feel like crap and make you feel important? Because obviously you've got wounds where you don't feel important, or else
Exactly.
you wouldn't be crying so loud. Look at me.
Right.
But didn't mean that I felt like that we needed to allow him that platform. Or maybe we did say, okay, we see you. You're doing a really good job.
So if
Can you be loving now?
If we're the teacher in the first grade class and you have this student that is bullying everybody
Yeah.
and hurting people and saying mean things and pushing people down at recess and hurting people, is the solution to remove that student from school and suspend them and push them out?
No, it's not. Craig.
What does that 7-year-old first grader really need?
Needs love.
He needs
just
love.
Like I'm talking like,
he needs
hey, what's going
compassion.
on?
He needs to be
Well, I just said that. I kind of said that. Like, what's going on? Do you need to-
exactly. So the shadow for you then is recognizing and remembering
I
that,
want to protect them.
right? That's a really beautiful thing that we want to do. We want to protect the people that we love as well as
And how do you
just
protect
society.
them better than making the environment safe instead of removing, like
Right.
giving everybody love? Okay,
if
so
we banish. So what happens to the bully that's
So
suspended?
should we
Hold
thank
on, let me
him?
flesh this out. What happens to the bully that's suspended in first grade? He goes home and gets his ass beat more
right.
because what? You got suspended from school?
Yeah.
Now mom had to take time off work to come get you. And
Okay, I need you to lower your voice.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, that was just really.
This is.
I was
I'm
feeling
really, I'm really
that.
passionate about this.
You can be passionate.
I see that dude.
I was getting scared.
I see that dude and how wounded he is.
Yeah.
And how hurt he is.
So you didn't block him. You pinned his comment. And I can see that. I'm struggling. I think I need a moment. You were being my trigger was when you were embodying the angry dad that was like yelling, and now you did this, and you and you were loud, and all of a sudden you were as big as the room, and it just was like, oh,
I get that.
my kid, my inner self was, I just need a moment.
I'm in a dress. I'm sitting here in front of you.
Right? That's funny. You're literally in a dress, and
Right?
my static, my trauma vision was very,
Isn't
it was
that
very, that's why I was like, I
fascinating?
need you to lower your voice.
What energy is and what energy can do and how energy can
Yeah.
be expressed.
I was very, so I'm calming down now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that guy just doesn't have the data to see outside of his filter right now. So I
Okay.
hope he keeps following us.
Yeah.
Because maybe that's the spark that will give him
Yeah.
more data to start
Okay.
looking.
Okay.
He's obviously got some goodness in him and he's trying.
He does.
Everybody does.
So maybe we acknowledge that.
Right?
Okay. Boy, I'm also nervous about the cultural appropriation and area. I don't know how to.
There's more shadow to look
There
at.
is more shadow to look at, but I want to be a loving, but I don't want to. I don't
Don't want to be supportive of something that is
really hurtful, and I don't have enough. I don't know what to do here. I was just thinking okay, we'll send him love. Maybe check out this stuff, but also,
we're not sending people to him.
well, I don't know what to do. I'm doing my best here. I'm just you're making all the rules right now, saying this is what we're doing, this is
Oh
what
my
we're not
goodness.
doing, and I'm trying to like come up with ideas and be here, and you're like, no, we're pinning it.
Is that
no,
what
we're
it
not.
feels like?
It does. I'm trying to come up with ways to be supportive, and which is allowed by you.
Oh goodness, Steph, you have all the room, all the space.
I don't know what to do. Okay.
Yeah, I really don't feel like I mean, if that's the way it feels.
It's probably not on the playback. Remember, I just got really triggered. So like, I'm very aware that this could just be my
that's really
my
important
trauma
to me,
vision.
right? It's okay.
I want to move on.
Okay.
I think we need to move on so I can focus.
It's totally
You were
okay.
talking about an account on Instagram. I can't remember the name of it.
Neurocompatible _parenting.
Okay.
Yeah.
That. So you want to keep going on that? I tried to look it up and I got scrolled by a post, so I'm not going to.
It's all interrelated, right?
Yes.
That guy's prefrontal cortex, his part of his brain that is like impulse control. Obviously, he obviously doesn't have a lot of impulse control.
Yeah.
That's what
that was an impulse right there.
Exactly.
That was very much a reactive. It triggered something. It sparked, and it was an immediate reaction.
Exactly. That's what a lot of trolling and a lot of activity on social media is it's a lack of impulse control.
And I wonder just how, because the mask of social media, yes, it can bring out the best in people, but it really does change. Like, it lights up a different part of your brain where it is not acting on your best interest a lot. I wonder what that conversation, and not in a say that to my face kind of way. I'm not saying that. Just like, if he would have heard that conversation in person, would he have still been like, yeah, pansy? Or would he have heard it? Would it maybe have sparked something and was like, oh, yeah, I can see that. Or actually, this is what it feels like for me. I don't feel like, I mean, maybe there's definitely those people, but if that was in person, I don't think that his first, like the way he would have commented, his first reaction would have been an attack. It could have been, but probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not. It would have probably been very different. Whatever it would have been, I don't know. I guess I can't speculate, but
yeah.
But it would have been very different.
It's so fascinating to me when I start to have all of these kind of different ways of looking at things, right? So for me, it's been a year and a half. It's been 5. Truthfully, I keep expanding it further and further and further. Obviously a lifetime of more data input, right?
Yeah.
And anytime we can not push ourselves, but anytime we expand outside of our comfort zone is when we're collecting more data.
Yeah.
And once we collect more data, then we can start seeing outside of the boxes and the filters that we are raised in. And when you and I got together, this is our anniversary, but we've been together for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Everything at that time period in my life was about collecting more data. And so immediately upon meeting you, I started to receive, look, search, gather more data. And that's allowed me to just continually expand the filters that I see the world through and start to look outside of the boxes that I have been placed in, first and foremost, right? I was born into a box.
Yeah.
I wasn't my choosing. I didn't pick the box, but I was born into a box, and that box was constructed and created with all sorts of different data. Mm-hmm. And that became my data.
Some say you did choose your box.
Maybe I did.
Yeah.
Right? There's that belief too, that we choose our life, choose this experience, the Akashic and all of those kind of different things. And
you saw the end and you were like, this is the path. I'm willing to walk this path.
Yeah, we've had that conversation lately where
also
I don't know where I stand on that.
Also, I did not choose this.
Maybe we did.
Yeah.
I could see you and me sitting up there or sitting down there or sitting somewhere in this linear, non-linear, circular, energetic, expansive place and being like, gosh, we've been exploring this dimension that we're in as fairies for quite a while. Should we go do something else? Yeah, let's go see something else. Let's go get some more data. I hear about this place, Earth. Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, it's a pretty place. There's water, there's trees, there's so many different animals, and there's all sorts of stuff. And they have this one animal they call human there. Oh, that sounds interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of a human before. Yeah, they're pretty cool. They walk, they talk, they create things. They made fire. Really? Well, they think they made fire, but they found fire. So then we have this agreement between the two of us. Let's go there. Okay, well, let's go find out what it takes. And then we realize we get to decide what it looks like. You and I chose to be born and lived in direct correlation and connection with each other, where we just moved around this county but with each other.
Yeah.
Until that one moment when we met. And once we met, that was the beginning.
Yeah.
And so now we're here 10 years later, and I have more data than I've ever had before in my life.
Yeah.
I'm able to look into completely new spaces and boxes that scare me. Not from like a frightening, scary way, just like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's over there.
Right.
And I'm so curious, and I'm so excited to learn more. So how do we encourage that type of outlook and that way of kind of looking at things, where suddenly we can start to encourage other people to collect more data for themselves so that they can start thinking, seeing, viewing outside of these filters and these boxes that they were given? That's what I think this podcast is really all about on one level.
It's a spark.
It's a spark.
I like that.
It's the opportunity to just think of something different and in a different way, which is more data going into your brain, which then allows you to see and form different ways of thinking and different ways of feeling and different ways of literally looking at the world around you.
What happens when I mix red and blue?
Exactly. That's so important, and it's so important for growth. It's literally, I think that's like, if we think about the universe as the big ball of energy, that's how that energy continues to expand and spin and grow, because we all are looking for more, and not in this like deep, yes, in a kind of a deep esoteric way of wondering what happens when I die, and the search of what's on the other side, and the horizon isn't enough. I want to see what's past the horizon. That growth and that expansion and that whole process that we're doing is that it's looking to consume more data so that you can see further and further and further and see things in a different and more curious kind of way. So I think that's a massive thing that needs to be encouraged and cultivated and taught. And when you encounter people like the guy that made the comment on the reel, to just simply block or banish, or because we saw all the back and forth that he had with other people who were just trying to argue with a bully on the playground as well. Yeah. That, to me, isn't trying to look and get curious and get more data. That's just using the data that you have in order to continue to spin that dynamic.
Yeah. I can see. There's definitely growth there for me, I'm aware of, and I'm
both
okay
of us.
to...
Can we go back into some of this masculine, feminine?
Sure.
Some of the stuff that came up on part 1.
Okay.
That I wanted to touch base on a little bit more.
I haven't distracted you enough away from it yet?
No, and this is going to be very much diving right back into it.
Oh, good. Okay. I might not have my needs met. I'm almost out of water.
It's also the type of thing that we don't have to.
It's okay. Let's see.
It's an acknowledgement of...
Let's get curious.
Right. A lot of, I think, and you talked about it in the first part, but a lot of the stuff that I think has been, because it's not just for you, I think it's common for a lot of people, and it's also, it's come up for me as well, but it's rather than trying to look through the lens of heteronormative thought processes and minds, right? You talked about the LGBTQ experience, and even more so than that, right? There's this big, massive spectrum of not just sexuality or gender or really life experience that we have to also take into consideration, because everybody sees the world differently through their lenses and filters. How do you feel your resistance to, your shutting down of, your complete disconnect and pushing away from your sexuality influenced not just your lenses and your filters, but kind of this expression of your feminine, like you talked about it, you touched upon it during the first part, where it was like you were afraid to interact and engage with women because there was a part of you, I think, inside, and if I'm putting words in your mouth, I apologize. You can correct me, of course, but it's that fear of they'll interpret those actions as affection, or that they'll think I'm only flirting with them, or that I'm being nice to them because I like them, and then they'll discover that I'm gay, and then it'll be a whole thing, and there's all the resistance to it. And that brought up for me how much of that dynamic of not wanting to be thought of as gay is so prevalent in masculine culture and in those groups of masculine energy.
Yeah.
Where
you're compassionate at all, and that's the first thing they accuse you of.
Exactly. Right. You can't be like, if I were to give one of my friends a hug in high school that wasn't just a quick bro hug, slap on the back. Instead, it was an actual, like, I love you, dude. And like the kind of hugs that I give the men that I love today. If I would have done that at 15 or 16 or 17 years old, undoubtedly everybody would have thought I was gay.
Yeah.
You know?
And then it's not like a warm welcome. It's like, oh, I see you.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly. Now you're suddenly seen a certain way and treated a certain way. So how does that feel for you? Like, what is that as you kind of
I don't know. I think we should just keep talking about you. How does that feel? I don't understand the question.
I'd like to phone a friend.
I do.
Regis.
I don't know what's happening. My this frontal lobe, I got it hiding. I got my third eye hiding behind a hat brim. I got everything. My frontal cortex is not like, no. I don't know. I will just, like, the only thing that's happening is I just keep getting this flash of this memory. And so I will say the memory, and whether that explains it or not, or it just spins off to wherever it needs to go, or maybe it's like completely irrelevant. I don't know, but I can't get past like the poo, 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 poo. And I even think I've mentioned it before, but I don't think I did on the
podcast.
I think it was just you and me. It's bringing up massive amounts of anxiety. So like I said, I don't know if it's even understanding the question. I don't think it is, but I can't think beyond it. So just get it out. I think my first encounter, is all you see, like, you get exposed to, or at least what my experience was. My exposure was just like heteronormative. I didn't have any understanding of, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous right now. This is bringing up a lot. Like, I don't even think this is a question, but for some reason, like, this is here and I'm panicking hard. It's just like, oh my God, it is feeling like, I feel like, like I'm under attack. I was at my cousin's house, and there was, she had a friend, or it was a friend of the older sister. It was the friend of the oldest sister, I think. All the details probably aren't important, but my first experience was making, like, gay was a threat. The words that she like whispered to me, like, be careful around her, she's a lesbian. And I was like, what's a lesbian? Like, means she's like, she likes girls. So I'm like, oh. So it was like I got a warning from my older cousin looking out for me to be careful because she was a threat. And I didn't like understand the message that I just got was that's a threat.
It's danger.
It's danger. So
do you remember how old?
I don't. I remember, like, you know how older people are like giants.
Right.
And so she was like a giant, but like I'm trying to think of the age difference between, like, however, like, kids' memories. I'm like the age difference between my oldest cousin and me in this family is like I don't know. We'll say just like 6 years. So it's not, so I think she was, I don't know, like this is just my memory of it.
Yeah.
As being little.
So you're little.
And then my older cousin, and then it was one of her friends older. I just remember she was this really tall woman, and maybe she was just this really tall woman, but being scared, like she definitely had to look down at me, and just like this thing of not only is like she's super big, and now it's like, oh, this fear. So whenever like anything started coming up, regardless of like, I don't think I had awareness of, oh, any of this means I'm bad and I'm scary, because I didn't even have awareness. There was like so much, I just associated it. I didn't have the conscious thought. I had the subconscious thought. It wasn't like, I didn't have to think, oh, this is bad. It was like, this is bad. It was just like a knowing.
Yeah.
And like hiding, suppressing. But then when I started to get, I don't know, like there was just not, I just didn't get exposure to it. Only like most of it was TV when you would start to see it. And I remember like TV didn't always, put, it was also, they've like painted out the LGBT to be predators. And that's what it is. They've made it because it's unchristian. So they've like, if this is the case, then they are a predator. Watch out for your children.
Yeah. Not only that, but like jokes.
All of the just...
Not just the jokes that would surround it, but the character itself would be the comic relief. That
Right.
would be the joke. That would be the character that wasn't, taken serious. And
Right. So all of that, and to, like, I remember the first time I was accused of it, and it was with, at the time, one of my best friends, and that was the girl drama of going, there was so much, we're friends one day, we're not the other. It was very a bunch of trauma kids trying to be friends,
Right.
I can see that now. But I hip checked her, and I've talked about, I think this one on, I hip checked her, and it got spun. Like I did not have any, there was no attraction to this person. So I don't but it got spun that I wasn't a hip check, that I came up and like bumped her with my front on her butt. But it was a hip check, and I pushed her over, and it was a funny thing. But that's how it came. And so it was like, you're gay. And then it went around, and I was ridiculed for it. And also at this point in time, not only was I like devastated and embarrassed and like losing like all my friends, everybody was like treating me like I was this illness. I didn't even have concept of it being true. So I was just like, which made me shun it even harder.
Right.
And like, I remember the first moment that I realized that, oh, this is a thing, but I didn't think it was a thing. I didn't think, oh, this means this is where my sexuality is. I thought it just meant this is like, I have this weird emotion with this one person. Like, it's this person. I'm in love with this person, and I will never let anybody know. It will just like, I just had that acknowledgement. Oh, I'm in love with her. And like, so there was so many layers of just not even seeing it. So I don't, it just was not acceptable ever. It just wasn't acceptable.
How do you feel like all of those layers and all of this dynamic that you're expressing now, how do you feel like it has, what did you just push away from? I just
sunk into the vulnerability of the moment.
You're doing really good.
Like, let's look at you.
You're doing really good.
I need to get a light and turn it on me. Let's get this heat off of me.
But I'm asking, how do you feel like that? And maybe we can just contemplate and not spiral, but
starting to sweat.
Free flow this. But how do you feel like that has affected your expression of masculine and feminine? So kind of what we're talking about on this episode, just the ability to show up calibrated as you are, whether then, or how you're feeling that day. Like, do you feel like that has had some sort of subconscious influence in regards to being a woman, or expressing your feminine energy. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. Like it must. Like it'd be like if I'm honest and look at it scientifically with all my brain parts. It's
a scientific term.
with all my brain parts.
Hey, what do you call all that stuff in the skull?
My brain
those
parts.
are brain parts.
It's impossible for it to not have an effect. But I can't see it. I can't see what the effect is. I can see how extreme trauma from my life, my entire life, definitely played a role. And I can see that. I haven't always been able to. That's, all the work that we've been doing. So I can see that, but I can't see how just that has, like, I know it's there, but I can't speak to it because I have no awareness of how it affected.
Yeah.
Other than it's probably really obvious to other people. They're like, really? You can tell me. Actually don't.
Well, I think about it there's too many layers to try to pick it all apart, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be the type of thing that just takes, a lifetime of continual processing and inner work and shadow work and everything else to try to just continually evolve and grow. If you need water, babe, obviously.
I'm going to need to. And I also am too, I can't think of any questions to ask you. Like,
you're okay.
I am activated.
We're just having a conversation.
I'm activated.
So you don't have to come up with questions.
Well, I want to be able to, first of all, deflect, and then include you in the conversation. Like, we are having a conversation here.
Yeah.
But I can't read, or I don't even know what you were just saying. I'm so fucking activated. I'm sorry.
This is part
I'm trying to pay attention.
Part 2 of episode 300,
I
babe.
cannot active listen while activated.
Right? We have a reel about that.
We do? Okay, I think it's right now.
You got to drop into your body a little bit and bring awareness to your somatic experience right now.
Yeah.
And what your physical body is experiencing and feeling.
Panic. Yeah, that was hard.
Panic.
Yeah. Okay.
You're doing good.
Okay. I'll do my best here.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Please speak, and I will do my best too.
I have an itch on the very top of my head,
Just
right into my bun.
Trust me.
I'm okay. I don't want to color on my head. You used the marker part.
Oh, I understand
or the
that.
pen part, not the marker part. That's not going to happen.
Well, if you use the pointy part, it would.
But then I'm
Nobody's
going
to
to
see the top of your head. Hair's covering
my
it.
My head will see it.
Okay.
My head is pure.
Okay. I've got nothing for you then.
Like you said, it has to in some way, right?
Yeah.
Just as all experiences influence
I remember.
us.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's always fascinating to think about all these different influences. And this one specifically, just in relation to you, is so, when I say convoluted, there's just so many layers to it.
Yeah.
That we're not going to figure it out in this episode or the next 300 episodes. It's just something that
maybe
is going to be a felt experience over the course of your life. But I think it's really interesting to get curious about, especially in the context of this episode, the masculine and the feminine, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think about some ways that you show up and that individuals, that I show up in relationship, right? I'm showing up as the way that I identify. So I'm showing up in our relationship as a man, and you're showing up as a woman because you all of these ways that we show up. And then the recognition of, I thought I was showing up in masculine energy and with, yes, some toxic masculinity, but then the deeper understanding of how I was actually showing up in this really unhealthy, unbalanced, toxic, feminine way, right? And then how you mirrored showing up in our relationship in this really unhealthy, toxic, masculine way.
Thinking the whole time.
Right?
That
we're very much in the gender that we identify as.
And it was so not.
And then it's the recognition of the toxicity of, and the truth behind how I was really showing up.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a greater, then you have to get really curious.
Right.
And that's been really interesting over the last few months of getting really curious about, what are you talking about?
Right.
Right. I thought I was, yes, I fully acknowledged over the past 5-10 years of the toxic masculine energy that I had in my life. And I thought I was getting that under control. And I am, and under control isn't the right word, but I thought I was really becoming aware and healing a lot of that stuff and doing a much better job. And then the recognition of, turns out I was also showing up in toxic, unhealthy, feminine energy. So that's something I want to explore now.
Okay.
Toxic masculinity is something that we know a ton about now, because society is doing a really good job of highlighting toxic masculine energy.
Okay.
So if you're comfortable enough, and we can kind of shift
I'm
into
super comfortable.
Right.
This is going well. I'm fine. Let's do this.
Let's explore and discuss and talk about what toxic feminine energy looks like.
I can't I just communicated how offline my brain is. So I'm going to try, but I'm not going to be able to fully show up with this conversation. I'm going to do my best, but there's going to be things that I feel very much inadequate to show up right now. I'm trying. I'm going to do my best.
It does just that caveat give you enough space, or do we need some more stuff?
I don't know. We'll just do the best.
Do you want to take your hat off?
I'm just I have a massive headache right now. It's my eye hurts. What?
Drink some more water if you need. What do we need to do right now, babe?
We just need to keep going. It's fine. So I will do my best. I'm nervous that I'm I'm not going to be able to fully show up and express the true female toxic, not female, I'm sorry. Again, brain not loaded.
Feminine.
The feminine toxicity, which is accurate. You have to be able to look at. But I'm also I feel like I'm not going to be able to adequately defend. And I feel like this is oh, you're coming, and I need to be able to be a good feminist and be able to stand up for women right now, because it's all of the way. So I feel defensive, apparently. I need to be able to defend, and I feel inadequate on defending, and I need to be accountable, and I am unable to see because wholly activated, vulnerable. But I just explained
Holy
that
Spirit,
pretty well.
Activate.
I just communicated that pretty well, I feel, right?
Yeah.
Didn't I? So maybe I'll be all right, and let's just keep trying.
Okay.
And I'm going to sit here and try and trigger point my eyebrow because it really hurts.
Yeah. Brought up a lot, huh?
Yeah.
You're doing really good.
Thank you. You are too.
I'm trying. I'm also...
I can't wait for this episode to be over.
Where are we at?
We're only
minutes?
at 45. Yeah, 15 minutes, right?
It's an area that I think is very needed.
Yeah.
To look at. I think we need to, the last 20 years, we'll just say, has done, the culture and society and across the globe has done a really, really beautiful job of bringing forth the shadow in regards to toxic masculine energy. Mm-hmm. And there's still copious amounts of work that needs to be done. There's still major issues at play. We still see it every day in so many different ways. So it's not a matter of, congratulations, you brought awareness to it. No, once you see a shadow, then that's when the real work begins, right?
Yeah.
The first step, it's like G.I. Joe. Do you remember the cartoon G.I. Joe? Mm-mm. I mean, I shouldn't say the cartoon, but back in the 80s, there was a Saturday morning cartoon that was G.I. Joe.
I remember there was a cartoon. I just don't remember that one.
We watched that obsessively, obviously, as young boys did. And at the end of every episode, they would have a message.
Okay.
And so it would be a lesson. It would be something. And the tagline the point of the lesson was always knowing is half the battle.
Uh-huh.
Right?
I remember that. That's
funny. You can't change anything.
I didn't think that was in my brain, but it was totally in my brain.
Right? Knowing is half the battle. And so when it comes to shadow work and when it comes to recognition, knowing is only half of it.
Okay.
The battle or the war, or those are really masculine ways of looking at things, right? But the work only begins once you have awareness of it. So in the last 20 years, and it's not to say just in the last 20 years, obviously there's massive awareness around toxic masculine energy for a very long time. However, I think it's come to a head in the last 20 years, maybe the last 30, 40 years, maybe in the feminist movement back in the 70s, 60s and 70s that really started to highlight us stuff, and the push to get the ERA through. That was probably when it came to a head, and now it's just continuing to build off of that, we'll say, right? So maybe the last 50 years.
I'm like, what about women having the right to, like, it hasn't been,
it's not a new movement.
It's not a new movement. And it was like, started with just women trying to fight for basic rights, human rights. And we're not done. We still do not have basic rights, human rights.
So I'm just acknowledging that in the last 20 years, with the introduction of technology and social media and the internet, has really catapulted the awareness level globally.
So it went from where it will be published on paper and who might have access to it to like, it's like,
to now we can just watch it on the computers that we carry in our pockets.
Okay.
And that's been needed, and it's massively important, right? But the work has just begun. So we have awareness of that shadow as a society, and obviously there's still way more work that needs to be done there. I think this is scary for me to say because I know that it's going to trigger people. I think there is the same level of toxic feminine as there is toxic masculine. And I believe that it's just as integral and important for society to see that shadow and start that work as well, because it almost has to be that way. When I say has to, it's like I definitely accept that I'm not saying this is a definitive, but the way that the world works, the way that light and dark works, the way that energy works, and the way that it's always balanced and balancing, the level of toxic masculinity that has been present on this globe and in culture and society over the past 10,000 years has an equal. And I think that equal is toxic feminine, the toxic femininity. And I think it's going to be just as crucial to the evolution and growth of society to see that shadow and start working on it as individuals and as a whole. And I think you and I have just barely begun by recognizing, wait a minute, I was embodying some sort of toxic, unhealthy feminine energy. What? I don't even grasp the concept of that. So I don't even really have an understanding of it yet. It's like just barely glimpsing the shadow, right? Like I'm not even at the point yet where knowing is half the battle. Like I just barely woke up and somebody said, hey, this thing happened. And I'm like, what? Now I'm getting really, really curious at what it is and what it looks like, because I can feel that it's accurate. I can feel that I was definitely thinking one thing and thought I was moving through life a certain way. And in reality, I was embodying this really unbalanced, unhealthy feminine energy. And it was manifesting under the cloak of toxic masculinity. But underneath the surface, it was really unhealthy feminine. Now, the dynamic in my head, as I flesh this thought out, is the reason that feminine energy underneath and was hiding behind the toxic masculinity is because that feminine energy is wounded and damaged. And the reason it is toxic and the reason it is unbalanced is because of the masculine, because the masculine did that to it. But then I look at that from the outside of my brain and I expand that thought process and that dynamic alone. And that key thing that I just said, right? That the reason this feminine energy inside of me was damaged and wounded was because of the toxic masculine. Now, I believe that's true. And I believe somewhere in that thing I just said is a key component to understanding how toxic femininity has grown and existed and operated. Because there's something about there's no denying that men have hurt women for millennia. There's no denying it. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm not trying to argue anything other than that. But there is something about what, like if you think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of years of epigenetic not hand-me-down, but the trauma that women have passed on from the dawn of time because of what has happened to them, a direct correlation to what men have done.
Women aren't the only ones that pass down.
I know. But I think about how over the course of time, like think about how interwoven and conflicted trauma gets people. And suddenly the victim and the wounded become the victimizer, the right?
The abused become the abuser.
Yeah. And
The
so
bully become the bully.
somehow I think in what I'm trying to express and what I think I want to get really curious about and what I think will be really beneficial for society over time to get really curious about is how has the feminine become what it despised? And what does that look like in a really toxic, unhealthy way? Because it's easy to just chalk it up to some of the things that we've been talking about during this episode where you had to shut your heart off to survive and you started to mirror all of this toxic masculine energy. So that's a really easy way. That's like the beginning way, I think, of looking at things. But then there's going to be like this subconscious thing where feminine energy had to survive. It's all based off of survival. And it had to manipulate, and it had to hide, and it had to control, and it had to cover up in order to survive. So it's not just mirroring the abuse, like if suddenly the world flipped and women were in charge, right? Or if women had been in charge this entire time, toxic femininity would not look like toxic masculinity. It would look very different because of how different the energies are. So the mirroring of toxic masculinity in feminine energy is just that. It's just mirroring toxic masculinity. But then how did I mirror toxic feminine energy subconsciously? Because it didn't look like toxic masculinity. That was very clear and we could see that. But somehow I was mirroring toxic feminine energy. So this is really kind of stretching the concept of what my brain is able to grasp.
Yeah.
And this is really me trying to get super curious of getting more data into this thing of my brain so that I can not just grow and evolve, but also I really believe that this is an area of next evolutionary growth for society.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, you feel very dialed in and focused now. It seems like you're no longer triggered. You're very on point of you've got things to say and I want to hear them. Well,
I'm definitely willing to sit with what you said, and it's going to be a process. It's bringing up a lot of, like, I'm ready to look at the shadow. Like you said, if that resistance go towards, and I've definitely got some resistance to what you said and some shadow coming up that will take time to go through. I'm looking at like the possibility of what you said and how my extreme aversion to it is a good indication that it's something to look at. But some of the things that I will start off with is I'm glad that you were able to show awareness of how you're like, obviously, you know, there's been a lot of harm from men, the masculine energy. But it's really hard to entertain the claim of balance from a man when the curve is still so extreme. I mean, I will make it as simple and like just 2 points just for reference. We'll say surface level. We'll talk about the pay gap and how women are they're still not valued to that, and that's just an itty bitty one to go over on how a man will get paid more for the same job that a woman does because they have that. And then we'll go to the numbers and the extreme rates of sexual assault that are perpetrated. Like the numbers of male assailants are still, I'm not saying women aren't, like that's already the argument. Well, women assault too, I understand that. But the number of women that are being assaulted by men and still, like, what do? What happens when a man gets called out for it? Oh, he's now a Supreme Court judge. So like those numbers. And then just one more point of the fact that men get to control what happens to their bodies. They have a say, and women still don't have the power over their own bodies. So to hear the balance is like, well, we've got some things to level out before I'm going to hear how it's balanced. And see the cause and effects, the way that nature works, the way that universe works, and the energies. So there's probably something I'm not seeing, but it also, I'm not invalidating you. But from what my triggered, activated brain is hearing at this point is a man saying, you're just as bad. You did it too. It feels like they're really deflecting accountability and responsibility and any kind of like acknowledgement of their own actions because women are bad too. It's like, did that seriously just get flipped that way? So I'm having a really hard time, which like indicate like obviously this is something to look into. But right now my brain is hearing hold up, why don't we actually like balance out some of these areas, level the playing field before it's implied that we're on the same playing field, because we're not. Or at least that's how my perception is right now, but I'm willing to see it differently. I will definitely entertain that and try. Right now that's I am struggling with seeing it the way you described it.
I don't feel like you're like rejecting me or anything like that. I totally and completely fully acknowledge, and maybe I'm moving too fast to really give weight to the acknowledgement of what has taken place over the course of history and what is still taking place. I am very scared to be speaking any of this right now.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel safe, literally, just in the context of you and me sitting here right now, right? It's always kind of funny that we have these moments when, like, this is just us recording something in our house, right? It hasn't become the podcast yet. It's just us sitting here, but yet we know the weight of it and we feel it. And so I'm very scared right now. So I think that's part of why I speed up oftentimes, not only when I'm passionate about something, but also when I'm really afraid. I have to hurry up and get it out.
Yeah, I get that. I've definitely slowed way down.
Right? You have. And I want to speed up.
I bet. You're like, oh, slow, scary, slow,
like,
scary.
Turns out podcast's over. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Well, I think we still have a few more things to go over.
And I'm not minimizing what's taken place.
Okay.
both within the span of our life, our personal life, and the course of history and time, and what still is taking place in society.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a shedding of obligation or responsibility, or choosing to flip and turn the tables so that, once again, not taking responsibility or blame. This is truthfully coming from this really curious place, and this belief of kind of what we've been talking about this entire episode of, we can't see what we can't imagine.
Yeah.
And so this is me just trying to almost go out into the ether of the universe and gather more data,
Mm-hmm.
because I can feel like there's something here. I can feel like we look at this tree, our backdrop, and this is a bounced image in some ways. And I can feel that perhaps what we see as imbalance is simply our opportunity to move towards love, and the belief of like the imbalance that we see represented all around us, and that we're constantly trying to balance. This whole thing of what this episode is about is just the shadow work, the inner work of really taking you to the truth of things, because the universe is beautifully balanced and harmonic and calibrated always. And so this visual representation of our backdrop right now is a balanced image of nature and the universe and masculine and feminine. So there's a part of me that really believes that the truth of it is there isn't an imbalance. It's just the data that we have that reflects that imbalance. And if we look at it, and if we address it, then we'll see the truth behind it, that things are always balanced and have always been calibrated and in harmony.
I guess, what is that? What do they say in the, that it's, oh my gosh, I want to get this right. I listened to it over and over and over again yesterday because it was so profound. And I knew I wanted the verbiage correct. I'm listening to the Bhagavad Gita, and I think I might have missed a symbol. Bhagavad Gita. Damn it, I had it, but no. I'm still practicing on that. And it was, I believe it was the second one where it was talking about, oh my gosh, it's so profound. It was talking about how it's like unchanging, like a recognizing of the unchanging underneath the layer of change. Like, it's in reference, I don't have it right, but so I can hear that to a part of how it's like, it's the consistent here as it always has been under the illusion of all of this.
Right.
I think maybe that.
So the illusion would be our interpretation, the capacity that we have to see because of the data that we have.
True. Also, things are not balanced. So claiming balance, like, this is a very strong imbalance.
I'm not claiming balance.
Okay. Kind of sounds like it.
So once again, let's use our conflict
We
resolution.
did bring it up. Somebody was supposed to.
I am on the same team.
Okay. It doesn't, right now, honestly,
We are going
it
towards
does
love.
not feel like that.
This is truthfully me trying to, this is some really deep inner work for myself.
Okay.
So hold on real quick, please. This is really important. I want you to look in my eyes and understand where I'm coming from. Truthfully, Stephanie. I'm trying to figure out feminine in me.
I can see that. I can see that. That sounded, I can see that.
Okay. So that's really truthfully where I'm coming from in this.
Okay.
And I'm doing really, really, really hard inner work to see outside of what I was given as far as data goes. So I'm trying to get really curious. And I'm not denying toxic masculinity. I'm not denying what men have done. I'm only trying to really look so that I can heal.
Okay, I hear you.
And I think this is really important for the world. Because I do believe that underneath it all, it is balanced. And I'm not just talking about the equilibrium of toxic feminine and toxic masculine. That, I believe, is the illusion. That, I believe, is the shadow.
Okay.
And it doesn't negate that it needs to be, like, not just respected, but, like, needs to get real and truthful about it, right? There's a level of masculine energy on this planet that does not acknowledge that it's unhealthy. It's that guy that commented on our thread or on our reel that isn't even aware of his behavior as being toxic masculinity and abusive and hurtful. So there's definitely that still taking place on one level. And then underneath it, and underneath it, and underneath it, we go through all of these different levels of awareness, recognition, and all of them are true, all of them are real, and all of them deserve to be looked at and to be accepted and to be, like, taken responsibility for. But I believe at the end, and it's not the end, it's the beginning, it's everything. Right, it's love is beautifully in harmony with itself.
Okay.
It's my whole thing of there is no good or evil, there is no light and dark, there is no black or white, there is no masculine and feminine. It's all this beautiful, harmonic, rhythmic energy and flow of the universe. But then we come up to this current level that we're at, and it seems very out of bounds because it is. And part of the work that we have to do is look at that. That is the shadow of moving into harmony, is acknowledging and really owning and looking at it. And because it's yin and yang, because it is light and dark, because it is this constant struggle of harmony and balance, it's what this whole episode is, masculine and feminine. We're flipping it. We're looking at it. It's this out of balance. If you're only listening, I'm holding my hands apart very far. There's this much out of balance in regards to women being down here on the bottom because men put them there. And the yang to that is the opposite. Toxic femininity and toxic feminine energy doing this to the masculine because of what was done to it first. And it's not a matter of chicken or egg or which came first. It just happens beautifully, harmonically over the course of time and history and evolution, that they almost are continually mirrored over the course of time. Because I think about what women... So I'm going to get to the point of what I'm trying to express that I think has come to me. And this is very scary for me to say, but I'm going to say it. And I could be completely wrong. This whole concept could be completely wrong. I fully acknowledge that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm only getting really, really curious and trying to get more data so that I can see things differently. Toxic masculinity looks, feels, acts, and behaves a certain way. And we can really acknowledge that, and we can see how controlling and abusive and hurtful it is, right? So if we were going to label toxic masculinity with some definition or some action or some trait, what do you think would be a good one? I don't have the answer. I'm not asking a rhetorical question. I'm curious. Like if we're just going to pick a trait or an action.
Yeah, I was thinking the like just saying the energy of toxic masculine and toxic feminine. I was feeling like that term right there was keeping it in a conflicted state and a misinterpretation that is being misapplied. So I was trying to think of like what would be a different verb, like a different like verbiage to use, or a different way to describe it, or a different like,
rather than toxic.
well, no, not toxic. I'm not afraid. I'm like, no, toxic, too hard of a word. I'm just like how much of it like we are taking just like saying, just finding a way to attach, like this is masculine energy, this is
Correct.
feminine. Just feeling like that's keeping the divide. Like it's always going to be out of
Balance because it's divided.
That is, so like what other form could we use? And I was trying to come up with one and I couldn't. And I was like, well, we have like high roads and low roads to everything, but it still feels like as long as we label it good or bad, masculine and feminine, that there's never going to be the unity. Like both of them, like the beauty of it is they're designed to coexist.
Correct.
And the design of unity. Like, so what is that energy called?
Energy.
And pretty good answer. So
The
we have
same.
that, but then if in order for like to like address it for context in our
This dimension and realm.
in this dimension, like how we're able to communicate in this space and time, what, like how can we, like what is it? It's like that data thing, it seems right there is like there's something else that we're missing that we're not seeing, and we've just attached the masculine feminine to it, but there's another energy that's present, another something that is present that is this divide that we can't heal because of the only seeing it in binary terms.
And I
in a
think
sense, I'm going to
that's
keep hitting that. So I don't know.
That's what I'm trying to.
I hear that.
That's what I'm articulating is we're only looking at toxic masculinity right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I hear you. I hear that's what you feel.
And so that's the divide. And I think part of the growth process is recognizing that there's toxicity in both energies. And the truth is,
being denied.
there's toxicity in energy.
Yeah.
But that is the illusion, right? And the illusion or the shadow is going to guide us back to this unified place of recognizing that it's all one, and that we're coming from this beautifully harmonic, rhythmic place where everything is balanced and in synchronicity with each other.
Yeah.
Because we are all the same thing. But on some level, we have to use these terms because this is the reality of what we're existing in right now. And it would be not foolish, but it would be like, I think it's responsible to acknowledge that it is labeled right now feminine and masculine.
It is labeled that. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, like, where's the divide with that? That's like, how can we, as long as we have that divide, it's not going to, like.
So as long as that divide exists, I think you're right, it will stay out of balance.
Okay.
And I think part of how we bring it into balance and recognize that the divide has what has been keeping us is this unification. So the ability to look at the shadow of both will unify and bring us to this place where we recognize what's in you is in me. So I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
I'm listening.
And it's really truthfully coming from this place of just trying to heal and balance and make peace with things that are really, really difficult. I think that, and like I said earlier, it's not a which came first or one, because that thing that I was saying earlier where I became aware of, I was embodying all of this toxic feminine energy in the way that I was moving through my life, right? This really out of balanced feminine. And I didn't understand that. And I still don't really. I'm trying to figure it out and trying to recognize it. And my initial response was the reason that that feminine energy existed out of balance and in a wounded way inside of me was because of the toxic damage that masculine energy has done to feminine.
Okay.
And it was just kind of playing out in my experience. And that dynamic of thinking that it's the man's fault. So
Is also
is also
That's
toxic.
just the same as what was my counter of you can't like put it all on the woman, which is I thought you were coming, but that's
So,
the counter is can't. It's not all the man, even as unbalanced as it is.
right? Even as unbalanced as it is. So then
I hear you.
it leads me to what I'm going to say. I think toxic femininity is narcissism. And I think that is the manifestation of toxic feminine energy. And I think it's a direct result of all the trauma and abuse that women have undergone their entire span of history. Like I had that silly meme that we posted a while back where narcissism is the love child of trauma and abuse. So I feel like the survival mechanism and the thing that was birthed from all generational trauma that women have undergone out of the hands of men is narcissism in order to survive, because narcissism reflects everything outward and makes it somebody else's fault.
Boy.
One aspect of it, right? So I think that's just for me alone personally in my own journey and experience, that's a place I'm going to get really curious about.
That's super triggering. And that's super, I'm like, of course, the man just made narcissism female. That was my first thought. Before that, I was trying to like look at the energies, and I was thinking, that's still going, right? I was thinking like the characteristics of like physicality, and that like I was saying, the brute strength is usually masculine, and the characteristics of emotions and feelings like is usually labeled feminine, which is, we could take it a step further to say physical abuse, assault, masculine, obviously female, obviously women do that as well. Then you would look at, then I had like manipulation as women.
Abuse.
Emotional abuse as women. So like my first instinct was like, are you fucking kidding me? You just said that. And then I sat with that and was like, holy shit. If we're going to look at these things like masculine, physical abuse, assault, we'll just say assault, all the forms, right? Masculine, assault. This is the unhealthy levels. These are the levels. I'm not saying men.
This is toxic.
I'm not labeling all men as assaulters, but masculine would be assault and feminine would be narcissism. Like, holy fuck. Like, I don't know. Like right now, like that, I have to sit on this. My first reaction was, how fucking dare you? And second reaction was like, there's truth in that. But it's so scary to even admit that because of how much it is embodied and how I have witnessed, experienced. And I'm not saying like, just like me. I'm just saying I can't say the collective. I can speak my experience. The majority of the narcissistic traits have been from men. Not saying that I haven't seen it from women. I have. Not saying I haven't had my own narcissistic traits that I need to look at, but it's always been surprising when I saw it in a woman. It was like,
so what if,
like, holy shit.
So what if, like in like you can think in your experience, the men that embodied narcissism,
Mm-hmm.
what wound did they have in regards to their mothers and the feminine?
Yep. And assault, masculine, both.
Right.
So just saying that like that, like I don't really want to hash it further because this was just such a, like, I need a minute to process this. That hit like, I don't even know how to explain it. That hit, and not allowing the toxicity to then claim all male. Why do I keep saying that now? all men are assaulters and all women are narcissists. Like, that does not get to be the flip now.
No.
To where it's like, will you, like, stop. Like, we're talking about the energies of it.
Correct. This isn't
not.
Correct. We're not subjugating obligation.
We're not grouping,
yeah.
like placing labels on.
Not at all.
Yeah. This is just the energy that you're seeing, the low roads.
Truthfully trying
the low roads.
Get incredibly curious about a very, very dark shadow.
Yeah, that's big.
In an effort to heal personally, collectively, and bring us all back to the real truth, right? Mm-hmm. That it is this beautiful, harmonic, rhythmic flow of love that we all stem and exist and spin in.
That's crazy. That is crazy. When you have I'm very much a truth is light, right? Truth feels light. Like, even if it's hard, it's the light, and the lies are like the heavy. This is an interesting feeling that I'm feeling right now, because the awareness, because the livid, like you just said that, was heavy, and it was just like, oh, like I had this like heavy, just like drop. And then when it recalculated and I was able to see that like other angle, I don't know, I might get on this later and be like, that is not true. But right now, when I saw that, it's really hard to say that's a light feeling, because it did make sense and it felt like weight came off, and I am immediately like just like nauseous. I'm ready to vomit. I'm trying, like I'm getting salivaty. It brought up like that awareness of like when you find a truth, and it's like light doesn't mean easy. Like, can you have that visceral reaction of like, oh, and that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm about to throw up, because like, holy shit, I just uncovered what it feels like right now. I don't know. Uncovered a truth. It's really hard.
We can, like you said,
I can't speak more to this right now. We can just
keep going. Like, obviously we're going to
wrap. I can hear you.
Thank you.
If you want to keep speaking to it.
I don't need to right now. I have a lot of thoughts about this. When I had this thought that came to me.
How long have you been sitting with this?
20 minutes.
Okay, that's better than thinking you've been holding this for weeks.
No, this happened during the podcast.
Wow.
And when I touched upon it in my thoughts, immediately I saw all these correlating things that made sense suddenly.
It does.
Because a narcissist, like my internal dialogue, my protectors that are trying to save me at all times and protecting me internally are narcissistic voices. They're convincing me that I didn't do anything wrong. They're convincing me that the other person is at fault.
That's the strengths. Like, one has physical strength, one has like emotional strength. Like, this is also the weakness. I can see that.
It's all this internal manipulation to keep myself safe.
Playing field that you were talking about.
And I thought about too, what's a classic narcissistic move? A classic narcissistic move is to suddenly create themselves as the victim. And I thought about
also
what
you thought about what?
So I'm thinking 10,000 years ago. Okay.
I'm hearing in this moment you were saying women are lying and they're just claiming to be the victim of assault is what my trauma ears heard you say. And that was immediately like.
I was thinking about because women.
We just got both sides, right? This is an emotional topic, so we're going to have both sides flipping here.
So when we're Neanderthals and we're walking around, right?
Okay.
We're having sex and making new human babies from an animalistic point of view. And then at some point something happens, whether it's the development of our prefrontal cortex, or I'm sure some smart scientist person could explain when we start having
what brain parts we started using.
Cognitive awareness of something. And then sex became something that a masculine physical form would oftentimes take from a feminine.
That's still like,
Still happens.
that's still like not just like in the human realm, but like in the
animal realm, right?
yeah, that's like there's so many things that you learn about that is just like terrible.
So what would that feminine caveman, cavewoman, what would that early human have to start doing internally in order to survive?
Because if we're looking at just these energies, most of the time,
Right? Most of the time it's masculine dominating
most
feminine.
of the time, like not all the time, but most of the time it's masculine dominating feminine.
Especially from the early growth period of our development as humans.
Yeah, if we're talking like animal kingdom, then male, female.
Correct. So what does as our brain develops,
and the emotion, because then we're also like emotionally
So
needing to protect
the trauma and the abuse that women have undergone from, or that female have undergone from male from the dawn of time, what is the epigenetic effect of that internally? And then how does that outwardly manifest externally?
Yeah.
So we can stop.
I think we need to be done with this right now. This is just like new awareness. I need to sit with it. I have processing to do. It already, like my emotions have been all over with this. From extreme vulnerability, feeling like, and like what this has brought up, and just like that for a while I had to be really, I was really surprised at what you were saying, like feeling like, wow, this is coming across from
me.
I know your heart.
Right.
And yeah, I can't have a conversation in a fully embodied way right now. I need a process, so I need to be done.
Let's wrap.
Okay.
Thank you for listening. This is the big 300th episode of the podcast. Thank you, everybody, for 6 years of support and showing up week after week after week after week, episode after episode. Thank you for all the love and support that you have given us all of these years. And we are human.
We are human.
And we are doing our absolute best in our personal life to grow and evolve and become the highest versions of ourselves that we can feel and see at times and glimpse. And this is just that process played out in podcast form for you to watch and hopefully spark and grow that data set inside of your brain so that we can all move back to this place of harmony and love and balance that we believe we come from.
Okay.
And we can all love each other in a better way. No more pain and suffering, hopefully, one day.
I also, like, I know we leave this open dialogue all the time of like, if you have thoughts, if this sparks something and you want to reach out, but I really, like, this is the awarenesses that we have had and how big of a stretch this is. We can only go so far with our communications. Yes. Like we need
your data.
We need your data. We need interaction. Like help us. Like if you like thoughts, bring it. Let's be in this together. This is our unity. This is our community. Let's heal and grow and evolve together. So if you have stuff, and it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to, like it can be the email, going to the page and sharing it. It can be completely just like that. So we're having that dialogue. If you want to post on in the comments on Instagram or messaging Facebook, however feels right for you, like whatever exposure you're comfortable with, choose that route. But the community, the unity of this is how we're going to grow. So I really hope that you reach out, you talk. You just
sparked me because this is something that we haven't talked about yet. I know we've touched upon it at some point in our conversations that we have about the podcast and the growth and everything, but it sounds like a perfect time and a perfect opportunity to create that Facebook community page, that Facebook group page for the podcast, so that these conversations that come up and spark things, people have a place to go bounce those off of each other. So we'll create that. I think that's a good thing. I think it's we'll create a Facebook group page for the podcast.
So by the time you listen to this, there's likely all right, that pin was done. There's likely to be a community
Facebook group page for the podcast where we can continue these conversations and learn and share and grow with each other on this perpetual journey of healing and love and growth and all sorts of different things. So, sound good?
Look forward to hearing from you. Yeah.
I love you, Stephanie.
I love you, Craig.
I'm so grateful for our relationship and our love and everything that you and I create together, including just the simplistic way of living connected to each other. Brings me so much love and gratitude.
I'm just like, sync. That's ours.